The City of Johannesburg will today vote on a motion of no confidence tabled by the ANC against DA Executive Mayor Dr Mpho Phalatse. The motion forms part of the agenda of the city's two-day ordinary council that started yesterday. This is a second motion of no confidence against Phalatse, who was reinstated by the South Gauteng High Court after she challenged her removal from office in October. The other main items on the agenda include the DBSA loan of 2 billion rand that the city voted against yesterday, which the mayor and the mayoral committee had proposed. The chairperson of ANC in Greater Joburg region, Dada Morero, who served as the mayor of the City of Johannesburg for 3 weeks in October, joins us now for this conversation. Chair, thanks so much for joining us. Good to have you on the program.
Yeah, good morning and good morning to your viewers.
So several of these allegations against the city's mayor, Mpho Phalatse, are about the city's finances. Paint the picture of how did she find the city when she took over, and what have been her failures that have dragged the city down, according to the ANC?
Well, the elections were held in November last year, 2021. The ANC lost power. At that point, our collective government, which we refer to as the government of local unity, had actually left in the past 3.1 billion when we left the City of Johannesburg. So we left it with a cash balance of about 3.1 billion. So we obviously were out of power. And as we stand now, the Democratic Alliance is at a point where they have actually messed up the entire finances of the city. They are currently sitting at about 5.2 billion, which is owed to suppliers. So it's not a surprise that Avis and all other contractors are beginning to withdraw from the City of Johannesburg as a result of one, non-payment and not honoring contract arrangements or what they would have agreed to between the city and suppliers. And it's not only in the fleet area, also in the construction side. Contractors are already withdrawing their services precisely because of non-payment. In fact, that 5.2 billion is increasing daily. So by next week, it'll probably be sitting at about 6 billion, which is an indication that the city is in a mess. And this is as a result of the DA have not been doing what they're supposed to do. In June, after passing the budget, they instructed all senior managers to go and spend. But however, they were spending the money that they've not had, precisely because at the point of passing the budget, they were actually not having the 3.5 billion to support the budget that they've passed. Secondly, they've not been collecting revenue, and they're sitting now at about 3 billion under. And we can also project that the month of November and the month of December, they will not be able to collect at least 1.5 billion, which indicates that the city is in a dire situation in terms of finances, and that's where they are. And in fact, they never wanted to admit and accept that the city is in a financial crisis. They insisted that they are fine. Even yesterday morning, they had a press conference wherein they indicated that the financial position of the city is healthy, they are fine, there's no crisis. And that is why we then agreed with all other parties, minority parties in council, that why would you want to raise a loan of 2 billion when in fact we have no financial crisis? Why do you want to burden the city with a debt, which of course a debt comes with interest? So rather not raise the debt because you've got the money. So the DA inspects that they are fine. So that is why we rejected the request for a DBSA loan.
Okay. So, I mean, what we're hearing is very much so a story of how you're saying a mismanagement of finances and that things are in a dire situation under this mayor. But some of your accusations, such as the underspending, go back to May last year. And Dr Phalatse wasn't a mayor at that time. For instance, the ANC statement says that in 11 months to May 2022, only 51%, that's 3.8 billion rand of the approved capex budget, that's 7.4 billion rand. But she only started in December, post the local government elections.
No. Well, she took over the cash balance, as I said, of 3.1 billion. Now, to suggest that the budget was passed in May 2022, 2, which was a DA budget. And I think we need to understand it in that context. And from then, they went on a spending spree, enjoying to spend when they did not have the money already at that point. Their budget was at least 3.5 billion not funded, meaning that they did not have the money that they had projected that they would have.
So, I mean,
No.
there are many other issues. I mean, besides all of that and the finances we've been speaking to for a while. But I mean, media headlines also coming out last week about the ANC and the DA blaming each other for the City of Joburg's fleet contract not being renewed as well. I mean, it just seems like a blame game constantly. The DA say that it's actually a headline that I'm reading saying Morero peddled hysteria over rental cars. City of Joburg says only 47 fleet vehicles were taken, but it was said that all of them were taken. Let's get to the bottom of this. Who is responsible?
The DA is responsible for the mess because the government that came in on the 22nd of November 2021. The fleet contract was overseen and managed by the DA government this year. Instead of finalizing the fleet, they were focusing on something else, and I don't know what is it that they were focusing on. They knew that the fleet contract would be coming to an end. Therefore, they must adjudicate. In fact, they adjudicated the process. Instead of bringing the report to council, they then suddenly decided to institute an investigation against their own process, which they have approved in the mayoral committee. The only thing that needed to be done was to bring it into the council. Now, they can't come out today and say we are lying. They know that yesterday Joburg lost 93 trucks from Avis, which is going to have an effect as far as service delivery is concerned. Yesterday, the fleet, the people who are supposed to have been awarded the fleet contract, also wrote a letter to the City of Johannesburg, which letter we have, which I can share with you if you so wish to, that they will be withdrawing their fleet midnight yesterday. And this is an indication that there's no political leadership and political will by the DA government to manage the affairs of the city properly. For example, immediately after council decided for the loan, the executive mayor, instead of presenting her arguments in council, she left council. She left council for the better part of the day and never came back to council, which is an indication, therefore, that her herself does not want to provide leadership in the crisis that the city is faced with. She does not want to admit where wrong has happened. And in fact, an admission that there are problems does not suggest that you are weak, but it actually suggests that you are giving leadership, providing leadership, and wanting to find sustainable solutions to problems. But they continue to deny, they continue to hide the real truths in the City of Johannesburg. And hence, we are convinced as the ANC and all other minority parties that, in fact, this mayor should leave the City of Johannesburg.
You know, I'm reading things that almost contradict what you are saying, but I really don't want to get into vehicles and cars. And I mean, these are things that we shouldn't even be talking about. I mean, this is something that voters have gone out, they have elected who they want to be in power, and the least that's indeed, but the least that those officials and all of you that are there can do is to look after the people in the city that you are working for. And that, I mean, that can come in the form of a car. We don't need to be talking about contracts for cars on television. The reality is that the House needs to get in order. Today we're seeing another vote of no confidence against the mayor. Who is the potential ANC deployee lined up to take over as the mayor of the Metro if this motion goes through? Or is it still going to be you?
No, the ANC's candidate remains myself. Of course, there are discussions with other minority parties as to what we want to do, but the ANC's candidate would be me. But it is also important to note that no one won elections in the City of Johannesburg, including the DA. In fact, the voters in Johannesburg did not give any one of us a 50% majority to run the city. Now, it's an important thing. Now, what it then means? It means in whatever you do, you need to engage with parties that are in council to ensure that there's a process of persuasion and negotiations of those parties. The ANC is the biggest party with 91 seats, followed by the DA with only 71 seats. But there's no intention from even the leadership of the DA to engage with such a big party on important issues that are affecting the city and say, how do we find solutions? You ignore that party, and in fact, whatever issues that party raises, you deny them, you call them corrupt, you call them all sorts of issues, when in fact they're raising issues that are to help us to prevent these problems continuing in the city of Johannesburg. So the ANC then took a decision, okay, let's sit and watch, and in watching, this is what is happening, the city is collapsing. And indeed, you can't ignore the fact that they do not have a fleet, because if they don't have a fleet, it means they'll have no capacity to be able to fix the best pipes which are already burst in some areas in Soweto and all over the show. And they could not be fixed because there's no transport for workers to reach those places and fix those pipes. So there's a serious impact on service delivery that the fleet contract, just the fleet contract alone, the fact that suppliers have not been paid and are owed in a tune of about 5.2 billion, it does raise serious concerns in the city.
Yeah,
and
it certainly does. It certainly does, and it is a great worry. As I say, I wish we could talk more about the whole issue around the cars, but the reality is that the city of Joburg has been falling apart and in a situation like this for many years now. And, you know, I think
it's not true to say
it is. We live here. We've seen it. We've seen it happening, Chair. This is nothing new. From the road infrastructure to things that should be repaired haven't been in years.
If you are
Chair.
an honest citizen of Johannesburg, that all these problems emanated in 2016. And we have to be honest about the management.
We are here. It's difficult to not comment on it. I know you are there, but you are more in a leadership position.
I spend time in informal settlements.
And why, if you think so, then why have you not done anything about it? Why have you not sorted it out?
We've been raising these issues in council. We've debated these issues in council. And prior to 2016, we were responsible for the city of Johannesburg. And the main issues that we have had during that period was in the main one issue around billing, which was a critical issue that we had. And eventually we got to a point that we resolved the billing crisis that was faced by Johannesburg just around 2016 before we lost power. Secondly, we were also included in our program was to deal with potholes, which we would have demonstrated that the ANC had a very aggressive program as government to deal with matters of the potholes in Johannesburg, especially after the rainy seasons. And that program was successfully made sure that we roll it out and we achieve successes on it. We had also rolled out an aggressive program around resurfacing of roads throughout the city of Johannesburg, because we had competent leadership at JRA, as opposed to what the DA has now appointed, someone who does not even have an idea of what engineering is about.
Yeah.
Of course, has collapsed the Johannesburg Roads Agency, and that collapse started with the appointment of the previous CEO, who was also appointed by the Democratic Alliance. So it demonstrates that there's a lack of leadership.
All right. Chair, we can... It's a blame game. It basically, all that happens and what we're hearing here is it's a blame game. And at the end of the day, the citizens of this province are being held in contempt. That's all that's really happening. But just very quickly ahead of today, the residents here, as a wrapping point, who are you banking on to support this motion from the parties in the metro? We understand that the ANC, they're still courting the EFF. I mean, a few weeks ago, the Ekurhuleni City motion led to a fallout between the ANC and the EFF. What is the status of the relationship between the two parties?
The relationship with all of us in council is still strong. We've demonstrated it even yesterday when we voted against the DBSA loan. So our relationship is strong, and we continue to.
Even though EFF leader Julius Malema basically said that you'll go down.
Our relationship is
you'll
strong.
go down as the man with the shortest mayoral stint. That's what he said about you. So your relationship is still intact.
That was an interesting thing that Julius said. But however, do not mix Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. These are two separate cities, and we've had our own negotiations and our own discussions. Unless something different changes during the day, we will inform the media if there's any changes. But as far as we are concerned, we are still confident, and we are continuing with the motion of no confidence as agreed with the small.
All right, we'll wait and see. Chair, thanks for availing yourself. Thanks for talking here on the program. Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Good luck for today. The ANC, the chairperson of the ANC in the Greater Joburg region, Dada Morero, served as the City of Johannesburg's mayor for about 3 weeks before the court reinstated DA Mayor Mpho Phalatse.